Welcome into another episode of Between the Hashes. As always, we got me, Noah, we got Peter, we got Charlie in the bottom, or I guess y'all see him on one of the sides. Big weekend coming up in college football this weekend. A lot of games with, well, we've been saying this every week, but a lot of games with playoff implications, conference championship implications. Just a fun weekend overall. And let's not waste any time. Let's dive right into it. AAC is heating up. Obviously, Army remains undefeated, but we have a big matchup for AAC implications this weekend. We got Tulane going to Navy. Obviously, Navy started off the year good, recently lost two games. Tulane undefeated in the AAC, looking to clinch an AAC conference championship berth. What do we think going into this game, fellas?
All right. Well,
I couldn't tell if he was out of soccer.
basically, if Tulane wins this, they have a spot in the championship game. If they lose this, they have a tie with Navy. This is kind of like this was like a lot of stress off Tulane players and coaches because this if they lose this game, they have to win out. No questions asked. If they win this game, they basically have a spot locked up because it'll push Navy to 5-2, and Memphis will probably be 5-2 as well. For Navy, if
Wasn't it based off conference records? So
yeah, and head to head. So if Tulane, if Navy wins, Navy gets the head to head over Tulane because they'll have the same record. But if they lose, that'll give them their second loss, which will pretty much eliminate them because there will be a team. Army would probably stay undefeated, and Tulane will probably stay undefeated after that. So that's what's up.
Yeah, no, so a Navy loss, if Navy were to lose this weekend, it would clinch a title game berth for Army and Tulane. But if Navy were to win and then beat East Carolina, and then Tulane beats Memphis and say Army loses to UTSA, that's the one way that there would be a three-way tie, which I think is pretty interesting. There is a way for a four-way tie also, I think with Memphis as well, but I don't see that happening. This game, I think, is going to determine, like you said, whoever gets the head-to-head here. I think it's going to determine who makes the AAC championship game. Obviously, Navy has one conference loss. Tulane doesn't have any. So we'll see. Tulane is, I mean, I think, what are they, ranked 25 in the poll?
yeah, they are.
So who knows if Boise State drops enough games, Tulane keeps winning. They beat Army in the conference championship game. Boise State ends up dropping some more. Who knows? You never know. You never know. They have some good losses under their belt. One at Kansas State or one against Kansas State. So I don't know. Charlie, what do we think?
I mean, you guys basically covered it all, but I'm gonna give my 2 cents on who I want to win this game. I really want Navy to win this game, so we can get back-to-back Army Navy games, probably,
Sure.
which would be awesome. Because me and Noah talked about this like 4 weeks ago on this pod, and it would be so cool if there was Army Navy back-to-back and like how they figured it out. I'm sure they'd probably just make the AAC championship the Army Navy game anyway, but
It would just make it even bigger than it already is.
yeah,
Like
it'd
it
be
would
so.
be,
I mean, I think they would just cancel the AAC championship and move it to the Army Navy game, like just like have
yeah.
the trophy be on the line.
Well, yeah, because AAC championship games are already at the home field of whoever is the higher ranked AAC champion or AAC
Yeah.
team, I believe. So you might as well. I'm sure they'd work out an agreement where it would just be the same thing. But no, that'd be awesome. So Navy has to win this game, and then I believe win out to make it. I think because this game pulls them even with Tulane, but then they have the tiebreaker, which puts them over Tulane. So they still have to win out, but that's pretty manageable with their schedule, with how talented they are. Yeah, like you said, I want Navy to win this game. It's going to be hard because Tulane, I think Peter's going to allude to it in a second, but Tulane has a really potent passing offense, and Navy has somewhat struggled in coverage this year. So that's going to be something interesting to watch. Although, Navy runs the ball as good as anyone right now, and they're a very physical football team. So definitely be interesting to watch. I think Navy's going to win this game. I think, it's going to be a sold out venue. It's going to be a big game, big atmosphere. And I think that ultimately puts them over the top. Peter, I don't know if you were wanted to break down the game a little further.
Yeah. So let's talk about keys of the game. So these teams are very, very they have a lot of contrast between them. How they run their offense, it's very different. Navy has had struggles in the secondary all year. We've talked about on this pod before how whoever wants to beat them, they really need to beat them in the air, and they need to keep they gotta get a lot of plays past them. Navy or Tulane needs to really push the tempo and stretch the field out with a lot of the deep plays, get some of the plays, as many plays behind the secondary as possible. Tulane, they have a great offense. They're averaging 41 points per game, which puts them 6th in the nation. And they have a good combination of passing attack and rushing game. Their running back, Mackie Hughes, is over 1,200 yards on the year, 5.7 yards per carry. I think they should start out with the run game if they can't get that going. Obviously, they can move to the pass, but their bread and butter is the run game. And they also have, good efficient quarterback, Darian Mensah, who has thrown for 2,100 yards and 18 touchdowns. He's a dog. He's completed 65% of his passes. He's only a freshman, by the way.
Bright future for Tulane as long as it's in the portal.
Oh yeah, it'll be airing that shit out for Tulane for the next 4 years. But
it always is for Tulane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think as Navy always does, and I think Peter was going to get to this, but you got to really play your game. You have to maintain possession. You have to extend those drives, convert on third down, convert on fourth down, get yourself in manageable position to run the offense you want to run on third and fourth down, which means get into third and threes, get into third and twos, get into fourth and shorts, long sustained drives, and obviously just keep the ball out of Tulane's hands, because we know they have a very potent offense and they're going to try to expose a weaker Navy secondary. So if you can control the game while putting points on the board like Navy's done all year, except for in a few games like against Notre Dame, I think they can win this game. I'm going to take Navy to win it, but close. I think Navy will be in trouble if Tulane gets out in front by 2 scores early. I think that's trouble for Navy, because Navy, the type of offense they run and the type of football they play is not meant to be playing from behind, especially by like 2 scores. They're not going to be able to throw their way back into the game, and they like their long, sustained drives. So got to keep the ball in Tulane's hands. I have faith Navy will. I have faith we will see a big Navy-Army game this year, even bigger than normal. So give me the midshipmen.
Yeah, I think Navy needs to dominate the time of the possession. If they don't, like you said, this game could get ugly, especially if Tulane gets up by 14 points. Navy can throw the ball consistently. They just don't. They don't want to throw the ball consistently either. And their secondary needs to keep everything in front of them. Tulane always has the fun passing attack, and they have Mario Williams now.
Oh.
I swear he's been in college football for 40 years.
17 yards of reception for Mario Williams. That's a dude that I'm interested in seeing match up against a weak Navy secondary.
Dude,
but
if you really look at this for 25 years.
So, I think he's like a redshirt junior or something.
I swear he's been in college football since. I just remember his freshman year he had like an insane catch or something.
Yeah. No,
I don't know.
If you really look at this game across the board, Tulane matches up really well. The winner of this game will succeed in running their type, playing their type of football, because each team plays a very, very different brand of football. So if you look at it, this may sound stupid and straightforward, but whoever is able to play their brand of football is going to win this game. I have confidence in Navy doing that, but it is going to be a fun game, very fun game.
Yeah, I think Navy's going to win this one, 31-27 actually. A little higher scoring than Navy would like, but I don't think Tulane's going to be able to control Navy. So yeah, I think they're going to win.
Yeah, unfortunately in this day and age, offense wins championships. Give me Tulane 30-26.
I like that pick. Yeah, I think Navy wins this game by like 2 to 3 points. I don't have a specific score, maybe something in the range of 28-25, something similar to that. I think Navy, if they want to win this game, need to score at least 28 points, because I don't have faith in their defense stopping, an offense like Tulane's. But speaking of offenses, we have 2 pretty stagnant offenses meeting this weekend in a big SEC implication game, a big playoff implication game. So we got Tennessee headed down to Athens to take on the Dogs. Georgia's offense has sucked. It has not been good. Carson Beck has been terrible. Their receivers have been dropping balls. Their running backs can't seem to get free. The right side of their offensive line can't block right now. And they're going against one of the best defenses in the country. So, how does the Georgia offense get going against such a tough opponent?
Score more
Um,
points.
yeah, what Peter said. But they need to make it so Carson Beck settles down. In first quarters of games, Carson Beck has been historically bad. Even though recently he's been historically bad in the full game. But especially in the first quarter of games, they need to actually try to run the ball. They haven't run the ball really effectively this year. They're in the bottom of the SEC in running the football. But that's going to be very, very hard versus Tennessee's D-line. And as we saw last week, Ole Miss ate up Georgia's O-line.
Yep.
And if Tennessee can do that, I don't really see much of a chance for Georgia to run the ball. So that's going to be putting the ball in Carson Beck's hands, making him throw it maybe 40 times. And you don't really want to see that, especially the way the receivers and Beck are playing right now. But
Yeah.
I want to tell the world it's not all Carson Beck's fault.
I
His
agree.
I kind of put the blame on him. But after watching the Ole Miss game, I was like, okay, dude, what is going on? Georgia needs. I mean, they recruit well at wide receiver. They just are not producing. I don't know.
Yeah,
To be fair, their best wide receiver arguably isn't playing college football this year. So,
that's true.
because bro has
Uh,
a DUI.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, Beck's having to force a lot of balls he wouldn't otherwise have to force if he had receivers that were able to get separation. But I feel like Georgia also isn't attempting to establish a run game well enough to where opponents are just dropping back in coverage, which makes it that much harder for Beck. Obviously, he hasn't been great in the accuracy department this year, but it's definitely not all on him. Like some people want to say, he hasn't been great at all. That I'm not saying that, but um, I think one of the biggest things Georgia has going for him this game is when was the last time we saw Tennessee on the road in a big game? It was against Arkansas earlier in the year, and that is a game they
Big
dropped.
game.
Well, it wasn't considered a huge game going into it. Ended up being, tough environment, tough atmosphere. They couldn't get the offense going. So I'm interested to see, Nico's questionable going into the game. I think he's going to be fine.
He's gonna play.
Yeah, I think they're just saying that right now. But I'm interested to see, Nico going into another hostile environment, going into Samford. I want to see how that offense, obviously they last week was the first time since I think sometime in September where they scored a first half touchdown. So the offense has started to get going. Granted, it was Mississippi State, but it's improvement. So I'm interested to see how that offense, you can say the same thing. I'm interested to see how Georgia offense does. I'm interested to see how Tennessee's offense does against a really good Georgia defense. That Georgia defense, in my opinion, actually played a really good game against Ole Miss last week. They were just put in some really, really bad situations. And the fact that they held into 28 was, in my opinion, pretty impressive. So that's a good defense. And we got to remember, we have three of the best coaches in the country in T-Rob, Schumann, and Kirby coaching that defense. So I'm pretty confident they're going to be able to scheme something up for Nico. But like Peter was saying, you got to, or I think it was either Peter or Charlie, you have to establish a run game. You have to get the run game going because like we saw when Alabama played Tennessee, Alabama just started dropping back and throwing every play. And Tennessee, I mean, they weren't caught off guard by anything. They would drop 7, drop 8, and everything was fine. So you have to establish a run game. Like you said, get back in rhythms with quick throws, short things, screens, quick slants, some RPOs, get him going, get that offense moving like a well-oiled machine. And I think that, if we see Georgia establish some offense early, I think they can win this game pretty handily, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree. I think the run game is a key for Georgia in this game. And I know Tennessee has a really aggressive defensive front, so maybe not just a bunch of inside runs, and maybe incorporate some counters and misdirections in there to throw them off their game a little bit. I really think, along with that, maybe getting Carson Beck in rhythm early, giving some short passes, screens, shit like little quick slants, stuff like that, just to get him in rhythm because, like you said, his accuracy has not been good this year. Tennessee, same thing. Got to establish the run game, get some offense early. Um, they have one of the best running backs in the country, Dylan Sampson, who was one of Charlie's Heisman picks last week. He's helping the Vols score over 235, or helping them achieve 235 rushing yards per game, which is first in the SEC. And like I said earlier, like you guys have said, the defensive line is really scary in Tennessee right now. Put pressure on Carson Beck. He has not been good under pressure this season, and he really hasn't been good with time in the pocket this season, to be honest. But throwing him off his game will, of course, make him throw the ball to the other team, which is what they want to do. For Tennessee, target Squirrel White. The dude is criminally underrated.
I agree.
So fast, his routes are so crisp. Just give him the ball. Give him some quick slants, some bubble screens. Give him an occasional deep shot to mess with Georgia's defense. Give him the ball. He has less than 500 receiving yards this year. Or, like, shit. Give him the ball. I personally have Tennessee winning this by 3 points, 27-24.
Yeah. This is a hard game to pick just because I'm so, like, it's hard for me to be confident in Tennessee on the road right now, but it's also hard for me to be confident in Georgia's offense. I'm confident in Georgia's defense. I'm confident in Tennessee's defense. It's really whose offense shows up. I have a little bit more faith in Georgia's offense showing up just because, as the trends go, it's typically harder for the away team on offense. Just in a big game like this. I remember when we saw, 2 years ago when Tennessee went into Athens and just got completely dismantled. Obviously, that was a much better Georgia team, but you know what I mean? Like, offenses, it's typically harder to play on the road. The crowd's getting loud while you're going, hard to communicate. I think that, I think they just announced Trevor Etienne will be out, so Nate Frazier is going to have to step up. But as Georgia, you have, granted, Arian Smith does not have the best hands, let's be real, but Arian Smith is likely the fastest guy on the field.
Bro, drop that screen was actually horrible.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Despite not having great hands, he has probably some of the best speed on the field. So if you can get him in matchups with, not trying to hate on my former teammate, but if you get him in matchups with young guys like Boo Carter, you get him in matchups with, linebackers, you get him in the slot, you get him in matchups with safeties who aren't as fast as him, get him running across the middle, get him on post. I mean, he's going to have to show up because there are ways that they can take advantage of that Tennessee secondary. I saw multiple Alabama receivers toast their secondary. Obviously, they were overthrown by Jalen Milroe, but I have confidence in Beck hitting an open receiver deep. He's been able to do that over his career, and even this year with his struggles, that's something he's continued to be able to do. But they have to catch the ball. I think if Georgia's offense shows up the way I think they will, I think Georgia's going to win this game 31-21. I think playing in Sanford's huge. Not having to go to Neyland is big for them. So give me the Dogs by 10, actually, which I still think is not enough to cover. The point spread is like 10.5, which seems a little big to me, but I like the Dogs by 2 scores.
Peter, I thought it was really funny you mentioned Squirrel White, because today I was walking to class. I saw an albino squirrel. First thing that popped in my mind was Squirrel White. So I think that if Tennessee wants to win this game, they have to get Squirrel White involved in the run game. Like Ohio State uses Emeka Egbuka, for example, putting him in the backfield, running wheel routes, running RPOs to him. If you have Dylan Sampson and Squirrel White in the backfield, that's literally unstoppable. And I think that Dylan Sampson has to get the ball 25 times this game. He's one of the best running backs in the country, probably top 4, 5. I'd say, just because I think Trayvon Henderson and Quinn Shaw.
I knew it was coming. Holy shit, I knew. I was about to say it too. I was like, behind Trayvon Henderson and Quinn Shaw Jenkins.
He's 4 at best. You have Ashton and then the 2 Ohio State backs, and then Dylan Sampson. At best, he's 4.
At best, he's 4, yeah. But I think that Tennessee is going to want this game to be low scoring because Nico is not going to play a good game. It's just inevitable. He's going to throw picks. Kirby is literally like Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine combined versus young quarterbacks. But actually, I'm going to pick Tennessee to win this game 24-17. Carson Beck is terrible. I don't know what happened to him, but he's terrible. So I'm picking Tennessee.
Preach. Good pick.
It's the Cavender twins.
That
Yeah,
would be the trap game of the week.
Bro,
yeah.
he's ugly as fuck, bro. How do you pull the Cavender girls?
It's because he plays
Money,
football.
money.
I
uh,
guess he's the quarterback at Georgia. So.
yeah. Like I think literally the keys to success for this game are literally the exact same thing for each team. I have no doubt that each defense is going to show up. I think Kirby is going to scheme up some crazy things, but the key is going to be receivers stepping up, taking advantage of weaknesses in each secondary, and establishing a run game. That's what it's going to come down to, and whoever does that best, I think, is going to win the game. Um, but moving on, y'all picked Tennessee. I have Georgia. Moving on, Arizona State, a sneaky Big 12 team, goes to Kansas State, who's in a little bit of a slump right now. Does not look like their normal self. Um, how can Arizona State, spoil their Big 12 title hopes?
The scat back.
Scat back. The Scataboo.
Scatterby is one of my favorite running backs in the country. He's not better than Trey and Quinshawn, but there's have you seen? If I don't know if
Top
you guys
six
have
for
seen
show.
it,
What?
but he had this high school run where he broke like 15 tackles.
He's
Hope
a
you guys
dog.
have seen it. It's one of the craziest clips I've ever seen in my life. But Arizona State is not a good run defense, and K-State loves to run the ball. So excuse me. I'm expecting that Arizona State's going to give up a lot of rushing yards, and I think that's the key to the game for K-State, to keep running the ball with Avery Johnson, who's one of the best running quarterbacks in the country. I almost said running backs because he's a running back. And yeah, that's about it. Last game, Arizona State gave up a lot of rushing yards. I don't know the exact stat. I bet Peter probably has it.
177 and a touchdown.
What did I say? All right, Peter, you can talk about this then.
All right, yeah, fuck. Contain Kansas State's rushing attack. They are actually, Arizona State is actually top 3 in the Big 12 in rushing yards per game, believe it or not. Even with their 177-yard game against UCF. They're only giving up 119 a game. So they really just have to bounce back against that shit performance they had against UCF. And yeah, I don't know. Forced turnovers for their defense. Avery Johnson has thrown an interception in like 6 of his 9 games this year. So yeah, they're a little turnover prone. So just get the ball and score.
Yeah, Arizona State, they have an average of 1 interception per game right now, which isn't bad at all. That is pretty good for a team. And like you said, Avery Johnson has been a little interception prone. It's not a horrible issue, but he's definitely, put the ball in harm's way. So that's something I'm a little concerned about going into the game, just because, Arizona State, I think they're a really well-coached team. Not that Kansas State isn't, but I think they're going to have something for Avery Johnson. I think this game being at Kansas State is huge for them. Kansas State is actually one of my favorite kind of venues to watch on TV, especially when Kansas State is good. I think it's actually a pretty cool place to play. So I got Arizona State. I got Kansas State winning this game as much as I'd like to see Arizona win this game. I think they go into this game with a great game plan. Like you said, Arizona State has not stopped the run very well this year. I'm not sure. They don't rank. It's not a good ranking. I believe it's. Oh, gosh, I'm not sure, but it's not fantastic, and I think it's like somewhere in the 40th in the nation, something around that. So I like Kansas State going into this game. I think that they are going to establish a run. I think that they are going to be able to get Avery Johnson going, not just through the air, but on the ground. You really have to take advantage of the weaknesses in Arizona State's defense. I think they do that. I think that, as long as Avery Johnson takes care of the ball, and you stop Scatterby, because obviously, you have one of the best run defenses in the country, but if you don't stop Scatterby, then you might be in trouble, because the other areas of your defense aren't fantastic. I think they're averaging, it's like 70, I think they're 74th in pass yards allowed per game. So if they get Scatterby going, Kansas State's in trouble. But I really do think Kansas State pulls this one out and keeps their conference championship and playoff hopes alive.
Yeah, I think that Kansas State's gonna win this game. As much as I want Arizona State to win, the Big 12 is so freaking weird, and I guess I can cuss, but the Big 12 is so weird, and this is just a game that like could just end up being like 38-14 or something. Kansas State could just blow them out, and I actually think it might be like that, and I think Kansas State's gonna win 31-17. It's just such a weird conference, and stuff like this is just gonna happen. So
Yeah, I actually
Yeah.
take it back. Arizona State's run defense is ranked 34th in the country, which isn't bad at all. So that is definitely something interesting to watch in this game. Um, just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, I don't think this will be a close game. I think Kansas State leads from start to finish. Give me the Wildcats of Kansas State, 28-17.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Kansas. I'm gonna take Kansas State in this game. I'm gonna take them 31-23 or 34-23. Sorry.
oh,
Charlie,
the same score. I said 31-17 already.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So obviously big games going into this weekend. But we have some college football playoff spoiler games. We've seen a lot of those this year. Wanted to dive into a few of those. Kansas gets a big win over Iowa State last weekend. They go to BYU this weekend, who essentially should have lost the game against Utah, came out, survived the game. How does Kansas, spoil BYU's perfect season? Anyone can go.
Oh, I'll go. BYU has one of the best offenses in the country, in my opinion. As a Jew myself, I love watching Retzloff play. But for Kansas to win this game, Jalen Daniels has to have a big game. He was one of my favorite quarterbacks in the country. I said this last week, even though I was like partially dead last week. But
You were about dying last week with your flu.
Jalen Daniels needs to have a big game. If I'm not mistaken, he had a big game last week. Pretty big game last week. Yeah.
Correct. He did.
And he needs to bust out the electronic chain this week again, like he had last year. If you remember that, he had a solid chain.
Yes.
But I don't know if he'll be good enough with the BYU defense. They've been dominant all year, and I think Kansas just got lucky last week, and I don't expect this game to be really close.
Yeah. I think there's an interesting storyline going into this game. Last week, Kansas State faces an Iowa State team who had a very good secondary, but a lackluster run defense. This week, Kansas is facing a team who also has a pretty good secondary, but has a lackluster run defense. So I think everything for BYU, their pass defense ranks in the top 30 for everything. Run defense is, I believe, 68th or 70th, which is around the kind of differential that Iowa State had. I think it was actually a little bit less of a differential. But Kansas won that game because they were able to establish the run. I mean, Jalen Daniels went crazy. Devin Neal went crazy. I believe Devin Neal had, I think it was 18 for 116 with 6 yards a carry. Jalen Daniels was relatively efficient. I believe he had, I'm not sure how many rushing yards he had. I think it was around like, I'm actually going to pull it up right here. Let me see. It does not say, but he had an efficient game. I remember watching the game. Didn't really put the ball in harm's way. No interceptions, no fumbles, wasn't sacked a single time. So that's the key to success, because Jalen Daniels has been turning the ball over a lot this year, which is a reason for Kansas's somewhat surprising failure of a season this year. We thought they'd be a lot better than they are. I thought they would be a contender for the Big 12. Obviously not. But he did what he had to last week. I think he threw for about 300 yards, ran for close to 100, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And that's a good game. That's what he needs to do, and that's what he needs to do against BYU. However, I'm not very confident in Kansas's defense. Their defense ranks 90th in pass yards allowed per game and 72nd in rush yards allowed per game. And BYU, like Charlie said, is a very prolific offense. They can run the ball, they can throw the ball. Me and Charlie are both massive Darius Lassiter fans. Absolute dog.
Not a podcast without Darius Lassiter mentioned.
Dog. So I got BYU winning this game. I think they win this game by multiple scores. But I think Kansas hangs in there for a little while.
If BYU wins a playoff game, mark it down. I'm buying a Darius Lassiter jersey. I promise I will.
Darius Lassiter game winner in Provo, that'd be elite.
Bro, if that's the one thing, if Ohio State loses to a Darius Lassiter game winner, I won't even be mad, bro. It's my go.
Dude, can you imagine a game here, a playoff game here? That would be nuts.
Could you imagine a playoff game at Lane Stadium?
Playoff game at Lane would be sick.
It ain't gonna happen.
We need to have one episode dedicated just talking about elite locations for playoff games. Just like
Lane's top 10.
I'm trying to think.
Top 3 is probably Happy Valley, Death Valley,
Neyland,
and yeah, like Neyland.
I'm just thinking like venue wise, just like backdrop, like
App State
vibes. App State would be sick.
Tech's got to be up there. Like Tech, the mountain backdrop at Tech is beautiful.
Yeah, Tech.
Low-key underrated. Penn State has a mountain backdrop. I don't know if I saw you guys pictures, but Penn State actually is a mountain backdrop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. They have the roll.
Really show.
Penn State.
I'm trying to think.
This is stupid as fuck, but if Michigan had a home playoff game, it'd be so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like a maze out home playoff game. I hate saying that shit, but it'd be so cool.
Dude, give me, dude, Vandy home playoff game.
I was gonna say that.
Nashville would be on fire if Vandy had a home playoff game.
Bro, Montana home playoff game, bro.
Dude, that'd be crazy. I want to go to like an FCS championship game between like South Dakota State and North Dakota State.
Dude, my dad goes every year because he just goes to Big Sky and then goes to the FCS championship. I've never been with him though. He just goes to his work friends.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like other good, like Oregon would be Washington. Washington would be a good one because they're right on the water. Trying to think of just like elite locations for
Miami.
Yeah, like
Miami, Ohio would be elite, bro.
I need some playoff action, dude. That would be fire.
Bro, imagine like Miami, Ohio versus versus Ohio University, like Wednesday night playoff game.
That would be elite. It's a lot of the best venues would be like East Coast, I would think.
I mean, a MAC team will make the playoffs in probably the next 5 years.
Probably. Some team will have like a ridiculous year or something, and they'll end up.
Everyone said Miami was going to be the Go 5 team to make the playoffs this year. I actually kind of believed it.
Yeah.
But then all their players transferred. So.
A playoff game in South Bend would be pretty sick. That'd just be a lot of tradition.
Dude, all I can think of is the Ohio State-Michigan 2021 game when it was like snowing and they had like the maze out, bro. If that was a playoff game, that'd be like best college football ever. But.
All right, anyways, back to Kansas State BYU.
Yeah, back to Kansas. Yeah, back to Kansas.
Yeah, you guys basically said what I was gonna say. Establish a run game, blah blah blah. I mean, it'll help Kansas set up, some play action shots later on in the game, which BYU is not expecting because Kansas doesn't throw the ball. BYU is basically good at everything. Their defense is elite. Their offense is elite. Give me BYU 30-21.
I like it. Moving on, like I said, I think it's BYU. I think by 2 touchdowns. Moving on, a pretty interesting game, and I included this one because I think this is a potential trap game. Boise State goes to San Jose State, whose defense just put on an absolute masterclass last weekend against Oregon State. I believe a player on the San Jose State defense made it on Peter's Defensive Player of the Week. Great performance. SGSU, good run defense. Not good, decent run defense. Really good offense. I think it's 332 pass yards per game. They're 5th nationally. But, BYU, good defense. Obviously, you have Ashton Jeanty, and it feels like Jeanty. And it feels like Maddox is starting to kind of get better as the season goes.
Start Nelson, bro.
Start Malachi Nelson. I still have faith.
Do it for the light skins, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I guess part of Maddox's success is the fact that teams are loading the box against Jeanty and just focusing on him. But I think as a Boise State fan, his performances recently have been encouraging. But big game, they go to San Jose State. Let's break it down a little bit, fellas.
All right. Well, as always, as it has been for the last 11 weeks, Ashton Genty is the key to the game for Boise State. That's common knowledge between you and the entire college football nation. San Jose State has a pretty mid rush defense, like you said. They have 151. They allow 151 rush yards per game, which is 75th nationally, so they're kind of mid. Expect San Jose State to air the shit out of the ball. They are 5th in the country in passing yards per game at over 330. But they're up against a tough secondary in Boise State. Their secondary is kind of, I would say it's above average. They allow about 250 passing yards per game. And they force their opponents to only throw 62% completion percentage. So which it does show success, but it also shows room for improvement because it's good, not great. The defense really just needs to limit their passing attack because San Jose does not run the ball. They only rush up 94 yards a game, and they only have scored 11 touchdowns on the ground this year, which is terrible. It's 126th and 99th nationally, respectively. So yeah, stop the pass game. Keep the wide receivers in front of you. That's what the secondary has to do.
Yeah, SGSU's offense. They throw the ball more than anyone in the country. They throw the ball 65% of the time, which is good for number one in the country. And their defense also is 4th in the country in interceptions forced. So as much of a game, as much as a good game as GT needs to have to win this game, I think Maddox has to be on his A game. I think he needs to take care of the ball, which having GT helps because you're facing a lot of man-to-man because a lot of guys are stacking the box and they're not able to play an efficient zone. So you're going to see a lot of man-to-man. You're going to get a lot of those receivers beatings, corner, deliver it on time, take care of the ball. And really as a team for Boise State, just rely on GT. Like Peter said, that's the key to the game. If you can get GT going, you're going to win this game, and I don't think there's much of a debate about that. But that SGSU defense it's not great, but it's not. They force turnovers, and you win games by winning the turnover battle a lot of the time. So unless your name is Duke against SMU, that was actually unbelievable. But it's going to be interesting. I think this is probably Maddox's biggest test so far in terms of, just taking care of the ball and being efficient. So obviously I do think Boise State wins this game. It is on the road. It is going to be, a difficult game to win, but I like Boise State in this game, despite this being a trap game in my opinion.
You guys covered it all. Congrats to you guys. But I think if they were to lose, their playoff chances would be completely out the window for Boise State. Even though I don't think they're going to lose this game. But dream scenario for me and Peter is that Maddox goes and throws 4 interceptions. They're down 14-0, 21-0, and then all of a sudden, the GOAT from the shadows comes in, the former 5-star, and wins the game for Boise State. But not to get off topic, I think that Boise State's going to win this game by 14 plus points, in all seriousness.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what I had. I give me, for as good as San Jose's defense has been and for how many turnovers they've forced this year, I still love the offense, the rushing game of Boise State. As they've been so good all year. Genty's been so good all year. My number one in the Heisman race right now. Give me Boise State 38-24.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. Obviously, at San Jose State, great defense, all of that. They force turnovers, but I really don't see this being that great of a game. Boise State, with GT, they're 3rd in rush yards a game. They're 2nd in yards per rush. I think they're around 20th in rushes per game. Their defense is solid, not great, but solid. They get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. I think they're 2nd in sack percentage this year. And their offense protects the quarterback well. They're top 10 in sacks allowed this year. So I really think that, this is a game Boise State wins. I think, the offensive line gives Maddox time, opens things up for GT. I got Boise State pulling away and winning pretty big.
Did you guys see Destroying went to visit Genty and Malachi Nelson?
Yeah,
That
yeah,
was pretty cool.
yeah. Because I think the Destroying might have like one of the greatest jobs.
I
Um,
know. He got to visit Malachi Nelson and he looked so nonchalant
Yeah.
wearing his chrome hearts.
During his chrome heart and his shiesty.
Oh my god. He's so light skinned. I actually think he's gonna quit football and become a fashion influencer, bro. He's such
No,
a
he
mom.
can't quit. He can't quit football.
He can't quit. Dude, the
Bro,
dream
why
is
did
still
he not
alive.
start
The
this
dream
year?
is still alive. Malachi
I-
Nelson will be
I
good.
can't believe Bro didn't start this year. That's insane.
Dude, you know who needs Malachi Nelson, Peter?
Who?
Michigan.
Virginia Tech.
I was gonna say Virginia Tech needs a fucking quarterback because Kyron Jones is not it.
I remember last year me and Peter thought Kyron Jones was like him. Like
He was
we
so
watched,
good.
we watched him play against Syracuse in person, and this dude was like carving them up on the ground and through the air, and then he kind of just
No,
sucked.
I was literally like, dude, this dude is like a Walmart Jalen Murrow. And now, God, he just digressed so much.
I remember we were at the game.
That's
Like,
just like every college quarterback. Every like middle of the road college quarterback has like one game where they're literally the greatest human being of all time. And
I
then they
remember
suck.
watching because I remember Mike Vick was at the game we were at,
Yeah.
and we were like, yeah, this dude might be Virginia Tech's next Mike Vick.
Hell no. Hell no. Funny
Nope.
enough,
That's
Wyatt
insane.
Teller was at the Tech game I was at last week.
Really?
Wyatt Teller, believe it or not, he's from my hometown. He went to our rival school, and he's on the Browns, and he went to Virginia Tech. So basically, we're brothers.
Basically, he's
Bro.
I've known him since birth, pretty much.
Wyatt Teller's a bitch, bro. DJ Hill owns Wyatt Teller. That ass.
Wyatt Teller's all pro. Do not disrespect Wyatt Teller like that.
BJ Hill owns Wyatt Teller, bro.
Miles Garrett owns your entire defense or offensive line, and Joe Burrow.
No,
And Andy
Miles
Dalton,
Garrett
and
Loki
Andy
plays
Dalton.
bad versus the Bengals. Not gonna lie. Loki
What are you
does.
talking about,
Bro, Loki he does. Bro, look at his stats. He Loki does.
brother?
W
You want
Razors.
to hear? You want to hear his last 10 games against them? Sack,
Bro, he literally can't
two
do
sacks,
anything versus the
sack
Bengals,
and a half,
bro.
sack and a half, 2 sacks, sack, and then tackles. All right.
Wait,
let's move on.
does he have a sack in every game he's played against Bengals?
No. He has
Bro,
like
no, he's
1,
never
2,
had
3,
one.
4,
He's
5,
literally never
6,
had
7, 8, 9. In 9 of the last 11 games he played, he's had a sack.
Here, by the way, when you were looking that up, I told Noah I was W rage baiting you.
All right. That's it for the podcast.
Oh,
Alright, for some reason, Oregon, Wisconsin is on here, so.
Dude, I swear to God, I said the same thing.
yeah. I like I said, I was just looking for a game to add on to here, and I really don't think Wisconsin wins this game.
No, you do. You do.
Their defense is terrible, which is not on point for them. Their offense sucks, which is on point for them. Oregon's good at both. The only thing Oregon has going for them is it's at home and it's at night, I believe. I'm so it's interesting they put Oregon, Wisconsin at night, and then the next week they have Indiana and Ohio State at noon. That doesn't make much sense to me.
Who doesn't love big noon kickoff?
I
Who doesn't
love Big Noon Kickoff. I love the tradition, man. Yeah, it's fucking stupid. Like, it's every time there's, I mean, I get the tradition. Like, I get Ohio State and Michigan is just a big noon game. Like, I understand that. But Ohio State, Penn State, there's no reason for that to not be a night game. There's no reason.
I don't really mind it, to be honest. When I wake up at like 12, I'm like, oh, Ohio State's on. Let's go. Alright, I'm kidding. I'm not going to act like I don't wake up at like 8:30 and watch game day, so.
It's like, I don't know. It's like, and you have Indiana and Ohio State at that, and it's just. I remember when Michigan State ended up being a pretty shitty game, but when Michigan State was ranked high and played Ohio State, that was at noon. So it's like, I don't understand. I feel like your viewership is going to be better at night. The
Okay,
environment.
Zach Smith had a really good point on his podcast. Yeah, I don't know if you guys even know who that is. You definitely do, right?
Zach who?
Zach Smith, like the Ohio State wide receiver coach who had the scandal and shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
On his podcast, he was like, Joel Klatt says like it brings in millions of viewers, but when Ohio State played a game on Peacock, it had 8.8 million viewers, and when they played a game on Fox, it had 9.1 million viewers. In Peacock, you literally had to pay for it. So Ohio State fans will watch their team anywhere. It doesn't matter.
It's like
just spreading propaganda.
I
And
don't
I
think they're
don't
accounting
blame
for
Joel Klatt
streamists.
for it either. I don't
Yeah, I
blame
mean,
Klatt.
I like the tradition of Big Noon Kickoff. I love Joel. I love Gus. I love just kind of that feeling of like late fall, winter, Big Noon Kickoff. But I also think it's like it's a better look for your conference and for your teams when people are watching these unreal night environments.
Bro, is the Big Ten championship gonna be Big Noon Kickoff? Dude, I swear to God, no, I actually
Ohio
swear to
State,
God.
Oregon, Ohio State, Oregon, Big Noon
Isn't
kickoff.
the Big, isn't the Big Ten championship game typically at like 8:30?
Yeah, it's usually at like 8:30. Bro, if it's one, imagine 1 versus 2, 12 o'clock,
12
Big
o'clock
Noon
kickoff.
kickoff.
Dude, I remember because I know SEC on CBS is like a thing. But I remember
That
every
used to be so good, bro.
SEC on CBS was peak.
That was peak life.
Besides
That's what Fox thinks they are, bro.
no, but I remember it was so they always want to put like a big game there, but like whenever Bama goes to play LSU, it's always at night. And then when Burrow comes to Tuscaloosa, they put it at 3:30. I'm like, I don't get the thinking like behind this. I don't understand why you would do this.
Bro, that game was a slouch fest, bro. Tua sucked. I'm just kidding. 10 out of 10
No,
rating.
no, he didn't. I mean, he played a great second half, but his first half was brutal. If we didn't fumble before the half, there was a good chance we would have won that game.
Bro,
But
who am I walking off the field?
and then they told all the recruits to go to LSU, and then Ed Orgeron got fired a year and a half later.
Bro, Ed Orgeron was the worst coach in history to
You
have the
got
greatest
blessed.
team
You got
in history.
blessed.
He literally got blessed because he picked up a random quarterback from Ohio State, and turned out he ended up being good.
Yeah,
And then he got
two-star-
Jamar Chase and Justin
and
Jefferson.
two-star Justin Jefferson, along with just an absolute unreal like talent on the defense. Their defense actually like they didn't play incredibly well that year. Like it wasn't like they
Dude,
had
remember
weak
like the
games, but it
Oklahoma
wasn't-
game? It was like 63-39 at halftime.
Yeah,
It
that
was
game
so
was brutal. I remember because I remember it tied up 7-7. I'm like, all right, Oklahoma, and then it
Yeah,
just
I was on a plane ride watching that shit, and then it was literally like 63 to fucking 29 at halftime.
and then yeah, then Justin Jefferson proceeded.
And then later that night, Ohio State.
All right, let's break down the nail
Field
biter
scans downfield,
Wisconsin Oregon game.
intercepted.
Let's break down the
Were you-
nail biter Wisconsin Oregon game.
All right, is Tyler Van
Um,
Dyke playing?
Is he? I thought he was out for the year.
I don't know. I mean, he'll play next year though in his 18th season.
In his 18th season of college football.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, this game could be close for like a quarter,
Not
but
even.
Oregon's gonna run away with it. Like it. I don't really see it being much of a contest. Wisconsin is just not great. I watched Penn State dismantle them on the road with a backup quarterback, who's arguably fits their offense better, but that's a different discussion. Not that I think Aller's better, but anyways,
Apparently Tanner Mordecai is the starter now.
for Wisconsin, yeah. So Oregon is gonna win this game, and I don't really think there's much of an argument otherwise. If Wisconsin does win this game, I expect to be on a TikTok edit. But other than that, yeah, no, this Oregon's just too talented.
I mean, I'm not sure there's a chance in hell that Oregon loses this game. So for their playoff implications, if they did end up losing this game, I mean, I think they still make the playoffs, even if they do lose to Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. I think Oregon's like 100% in, aren't they?
I think they could lose 2 games from here on out and still make it.
Okay, that's not how it works, but they wouldn't be in.
I think
they
what I mean is like I think they could lose to Wisconsin and lose the Big Ten championship game.
Oh no, yeah,
I don't,
yeah.
I
thought you
don't
meant the
think
Big
they
Ten
can. I don't think they
championship.
can lose Wisconsin and lose to Ohio State and expect to make the playoffs. Wisconsin is a terrible loss as the 1 seed. A terrible, terrible, terrible loss.
Well, I don't
Actually,
think
you
they
kind of
do.
have a point there, because if Ohio State came out and beat them by like 20, then everyone could be like, oh, they beat Ohio State by fluke.
It depends
Some
how. I think a loss to Wisconsin, no matter what, no matter the score, is what and a loss to Ohio State by 10 or more will push them out of the playoffs.
If they were to lose to Wisconsin and Ohio State, wait. Let's pretend Ohio State beats Indiana, and let's
No
pretend
need to
Oregon.
pretend. No need to pretend.
Yeah, well, yeah, but let's pretend that Oregon loses to Wisconsin. Would Oregon still make the Big Ten championship game because they have that win over Ohio State?
Yeah. Well, then it'd be a three-way tie between
That'd be a
Ohio.
four.
Oh no. Oregon would be tied with Indiana and Penn State, but Ohio State would be tied with Oregon. So I'm guessing they would just put Ohio State and Oregon
Well,
in
then,
it,
but Ohio State would also be over Penn State, so it would probably come down to win percentage.
and they would probably just pick Ohio State and Oregon because those are the two teams that make them the most money. So
Thanks.
I swear, if Ohio State wins out and makes the Big Ten championship and Oregon fucks up and it's not 1-2, I'll actually be so
I don't think
salty.
you got to worry about that. The rest.
I
of
don't
the
think so
schedule is
either,
good.
but I'd be so salty.
Oregon's whole schedule was besides Boise State and Ohio State was like cake. So, it you know.
Bro, Boise State might be a god team. I mean, they only lost by 3
We only
No,
lost
I
by
was-
1.
or 1.
Yeah.
No, it
we
was
lost by
3. It was 3. It was
I think
3.
it was. I thought it was. Oh yeah, it was like 37-34, right? And that
We
was
lost by
because
3.
Oregon scored 2 special teams touchdowns.
Tej Johnson took over, and now Tej Johnson's out for the season. So
Yeah,
Because
that's
John.
not, that's not funny.
What'd you say?
No, I laughed and I said that's not funny. Anyways, what do we think about
It's kinda
the Week 12 college football rankings have come out? What do we think?
So mid. So
yeah,
bad.
I said the same thing.
Terrible. Let's break this down first. My
Jordan
first,
Birch and Jordan James are questionable for the Wisconsin game.
cool. Oregon wins by 28. Anyways.
Hey, those are 2 of their top 5.
No, I know. Yeah, that's a big loss. Those are 2 big losses, especially James.
Let's think of Ohio State had no Judkins and JTT.
They'd still beat Wisconsin.
Yeah,
We
you're
could,
right.
we could beat Wisconsin with just our freshmen.
Okay, that's crazy. We have Jeremiah Smith still here, right? And
Yeah,
Julian.
and
Sayin.
Julian Sayin and
Oh,
Marlon Graham.
Ryan Day confirmed this week that Julian Sayin's the Ohio State backup. By the way,
Over
Yeah,
Devin Brown,
needs
really?
to-
Over Devin Brown.
needs to hang him up, dog.
Devin
Are we
Brown will
not
be the-
forgetting? Are we not forgetting the Devin Brown one-handed catch to JJ?
Bro,
at
Devin
the
Brown's
Michigan
like
State
1
game?
for 1 touchdown this year.
That's a perfect passer rating. 153.8.
Dude,
158.3.
I actually think Devin Brown will be the starting quarterback at BYU next year, probably. Lincoln Keenholz will be the
No,
starting
he'll be the
quarterback
starting
at
quarterback
Wisconsin. Aaron Nolan will be the starting quarterback at
Virginia Tech.
Yeah, or Nolan
Virginia
going.
Tech.
Aaron Nolan going to the DMV. Yeah.
Ohio. Did you say Aaron Nolan going to the NBA?
No.
No, bro's a racist. Bro's a racist. Confirm. Get him out.
No. Oh, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah.
No,
So
but I thought the playoffs was mid. I thought Arizona State was snubbed. They're led by the snapback, and they're one of the most underrated teams in the country. I think they're going to lose this week, but they are 7-2. They sneakily could make a run for the playoffs, and this might become as a surprise. But I think Miami is ranked too high in the playoffs. They suck. They lost to Georgia Tech, and if we can go back on this point,
Buddy has this shit memorized. He's been saying it so much the past 4 days that he just has that shit in his brain.
for the past 8 weeks, I've been saying Miami's going to lose, and they finally lost. So
It
clap it up
was
for me.
very satisfying because I picked them to lose almost every week, and they keep winning.
Yeah, I literally picked them to lose every single game.
And then the one time I bet on them, they lose. So I'm just gonna keep betting on Miami.
The one time I was finally ready for them to win a game, they lost. So I'm really happy. And I actually think they're going to lose again this weekend. The next, so I'm kidding. But
Really?
when Cam Ward got sacked at the end of the game, I was so happy because I actually thought he was about to get it downfield to Xavier Restrepo because that man is somehow always open. But
Yeah. I think there's an argument to be made that obviously I think if they were to play that Texas would win. But there is definitely an argument to be made that BYU has a much better resume than Indiana, Texas, Penn State. I think that resume-wise, I would actually, and this is not even biased, I would put Alabama over Notre Dame. I think an NIU loss is like literally terrible, especially at home. Call the Vandy loss for Bama whatever you want, but Bama has 4 ranked wins this year. One of them on the road in one of the toughest places to play in college football, which they quickly turned into one of the quietest places with an absolute blowout. So like you said, I do think Miami's too high. And I was saying this to a friend the other day. If Notre Dame wins out, the playoffs are going to be one Big 12 team, one Group of 5 team, one ACC team, and the rest of it is going to be Big Ten and SEC. So this these rankings kind of sucked. Call me biased, whatever. I would have Bama a little bit higher. I would also have behind a little
no
bit.
bias on this podcast ever.
No, bro. He's not biased at all, bro.
I would have Miami a little bit farther back, as well as Notre Dame. And you know, I understand why they're putting Texas in front of BYU, but if you want to go off pure resume, I think BYU has that. I also think Penn State is a good team. I was talking to Charlie about this earlier. I think they're a very good team, but I think they are ranked a little high. The best thing they've done all year is lose by 7 points at home to Ohio State. So
Prime Jeremiah Smith or prime Marvin Harrison Jr. Go.
MHJ, give me MHJ. Because JJ's not in his prime yet. Yeah,
Facts. This is the worst version of Jeremiah Smith we'll ever see in our lives, ladies and gentlemen.
No, facts, 100%. Yeah, ASU was snubbed. They've been a really sticky team this year.
Are you jinxing the sophomore slump right now?
There's no such thing as a sophomore
He's
slump.
not having a sophomore slump.
Yeah, when you're a glorious king like Jeremiah Smith Jr., you're never. He's not even a junior. Sorry, but when you're a glorious king like JJ, there's not a sophomore slump.
Yeah, especially when you got Julian Saints slinging it to you.
Anyways, that man's gonna get 15 receptions a game, bro.
He's gonna get 25 receptions a game. Don't get shit twisted. ASU got
guys.
snubbed.
There is no bias on this podcast at all.
There's not. We're being completely honest.
There is
the greatest wide receiver in the history of the college football world wears number 4 and plays for Ohio State. So
yeah,
and it's not Julian Fleming, bro.
Yeah. ASU got snubbed. They've been a good team all year. Penn State's too high. They're not a good football team. I know you guys think they're a good football team.
Okay, not a good football team is crazy.
They can't compete with the top 5 guys, and they're not one of them. They should not be top 5. They're top 12.
They're
top 12.
So they're not a great football team. They're good.
They're not great, and they're not going to win the Natty.
I think they're a good football team with a lot of talent around them. I just don't think James Franklin can beat any of the teams in front of him.
Absolutely not. We talked about it.
He's never had a chance, bro. Maybe he just had
never had a chance.
Never had a chance.
Maybe
he plays Ohio State every week. He plays Ohio State.
No, maybe he has a mental disability versus Ohio State and Michigan.
Yeah, Down syndrome. He has Down syndrome every week.
Maybe it's just Ohio State and Michigan, bro. We saw it with Jim Harbaugh. We saw it with Ryan Day.
Okay, well here's the thing: when you're in the Big Ten, there is not going to be any other. Let's be real. There's not going to be a massive challenge other than Ohio State and then recently Michigan.
Bro, Oregon, bro. What?
Okay, Oregon just got added to the conference and they don't play them.
Bro, USC? What?
That's crazy.
Dude, they just beat the reigning almost college football champs by like 40.
What do you mean almost? What do you mean almost? They weren't even a top 12
Washington almost won the championship, bro.
Oh, Washington.
Almost.
I thought you were talking about USC because you're whatever. Fucking.
They almost beat Washington by 30, bro.
Oh
and
my
Washington
goodness.
almost won the
goodness. Oh my god, you're right. Penn State's sorry.
And Washington almost.
Penn State's a good
was so
team.
close to winning the night. If Donovan Edwards didn't decide he was going to take drugs before the game and run for 2 75-yard touchdowns, Washington wouldn't be hoisting the
Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry, Penn State's a good team and James Franklin's a good coach, and Penn State should be top 3. Georgia's too high. Clemson is too high. Clemson should not be ranked. LSU's too high. They should not be ranked. Missouri's too high. They should not be ranked.
Okay, LSU should be ranked just because
here's my reorder in my top 4. I think Ohio State should be. I think Ohio State should be 1. I just have a gut feeling about Ohio State.
I just have a gut feeling too.
I think Texas should be
just
2.
Because number 4 on Ohio State. Number 4 on Ohio State's the greatest player of all time. So
yeah, facts. And number 2 on defense. Don't forget.
Facts. And number 56 playing center on offense.
Facts. And
it wouldn't be a podcast without mentioning Seth McLaughlin. So.
Seth McLaughlin, all-time Bama legend. And number 91 on defense, Tyreek Williams, my boy. Shout out Tyreek.
Bro, he might not play again this week, bro.
He got cleared. He's playing.
Yeah, but we don't need him, so he might not play.
I'm gonna go ahead and let everyone know the top 10 teams in no order in college football right now. No order. I'm just naming teams.
Ohio State
Oregon and Ohio State, Texas. I would say Tennessee, Alabama.
Georgia. Discredited versus Bama.
Bias alert.
And then I would probably squeeze a team. I think Notre Dame's a good team with a really, really bad loss. And I'd probably squeeze Notre Dame and BYU towards the end of that top 10.
We're trying so hard not to say IU.
I just think on a neutral
Was fighting
field,
it like the Green
I
Goblin
just think on
mask.
a neutral field, Notre Dame's defense would be able to stop Indiana. I think it would be a really good game. I want to put Indiana at 10, but it's very hard just because I haven't seen like the last time Indiana played a competent defense against Michigan and really struggled. So it's just like I think Indiana's a great team. I think they're a really good team. Like it's a cool Cinderella story, but I don't know if they would beat Notre Dame, Tennessee, BYU,
They wouldn't
Penn
even beat Ole
State.
Miss. They wouldn't even beat Ole Miss.
I don't think they beat Ole Miss. Yeah, I think Georgia would beat. I think Georgia would beat Indiana. So it's like, I love Indiana. This is not me trying to hate on Indiana. I'm just being, I think, realistic.
Okay, well, I think Ohio State should be number one, and Oregon should be like 4 or 5. Just my gut feeling.
Yeah,
So,
Oregon should be 4 or 5.
Yeah, just my gut feeling. Dylan
I think
Gabriel's a
that
fraud.
There's no bias, just gut.
No.
well, there
just
should
gut
be a
feeling.
tier too. There should be like tier one Ohio State, tier four, tier four Texas, and Oregon. It's not even biased, bro. It's straight field. It's straight on the field, like production.
S tier Ohio State, F tier Oregon, Texas, and Georgia.
It's on the field production too. You've never seen Will Howard throw as many picks as Carson Beck.
Yeah, facts. And you've never
Ohio
seen.
State has better running backs. Even without our best offensive lineman, our offensive line's better than Georgia's.
Yeah, Georgia's the left side of Georgia's offensive line is as good as anyone's, but the right side has been absolutely terrible.
Yeah,
Dude,
we don't
we
have
have
that
Donovan
problem. We don't have that
Jackson.
problem. We don't have that problem. And we
We
never
have Donovan Jackson. Oh, okay. So basically, I have to tell you something. Our offensive line would be like the worst offensive line in the country, probably. But there's one thing holding us together: Superman, number 56. The greatest player in the country.
Give that man the Remington Trophy.
No,
He's
give
gonna
him, the,
win
give
it,
him the,
bro.
give him the Walter Camp. Give him the
Like, he's
Heisman.
actually gonna win the Remington. Did you know that shit?
You know the center in college football who's allowed the least amount of sacks or
Plays for
pressure.
Indiana.
One of the if either sacks or pressures is Parker Brailsford.
Who?
Bro, you know the.
Just saying.
You mean Parker Titsworth, bro? Number 69 on Ohio University.
Thank y'all for watching the episode today. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Um, as always, we will have a lot of coverage this weekend. All of us should be around for all the games. Should have a lot of coverage. Peter will be back in the office this weekend grinding out edits. Me and Charlie will be getting all the highlights and everything.
Yeah,
So,
Charlie's not dying this weekend.
yes. Yeah, Charlie has
good.
that 103-degree fever again. But as always, like, subscribe. The link to the Instagram will be in the bio, so you can click on that. Make sure you don't miss on anything at all. Hope you enjoy the episode.
Shout out Jolly Man for saying I know ball.
Yeah, shout out AJ for watching the whole episode, and Shane. Shout out AJ and Shane. So and any of my family members who made it this far. But I really hope didn't make it this far. But it is what it is. But anyways, peace.